Hello, Rio Grande third graders. It's time to check our solutions for our Week 9 DMA. So we are going to start with day 1. Today's Monday, and we're going to take a look at our first problem. It's an addition problem. So remember, when we are adding, we have part, we have another part, and we're looking for the two parts put together in this case. We have two addends. These are called addends. We could have 3 addends. We could have 4 addends. We could have 5 addends. We could have as many addends as we want. But when we put those addends together, we are looking for the total of those addends combined. So we're going to take 376, could be anything, 376 objects. It could be apples, it could be pickles, it could be pencils, it could be anything, but when we add to that, we're going to add 266 more onto the 376. So one way we could take a look at this is by breaking this apart into our place values. So we could have 300 and we could have 200, and that would give us 500. We could take the 70 and the 60. And remember, when we have enough tens to make 100, we regroup that 10 as one more 100. So I can tell that this is going to be more than 100 because of the fact that I know 50 and 50 makes 100. This is actually 70 and 60. So both of those are greater than 100. So if I know 50 plus 50 is 100, then 70 plus 70 is 140. Well, let's use 60 plus 60. 60 plus 60 is 120. And so this is just one more 10 than 60 plus 60. So I know that this is 130. And I know that 6 plus 6 is a double. And again, these are two larger amounts than 5 because 5 plus 5 is 10. So 6 plus 6 gives me a new 10 to add to my tens place, which is going to be this 10 here from the 12. So now when I put these together, I have 2 ones, I have 4 tens, which is 40, and 6 hundreds for 642. So I have 642 here in as my sum. Remember, this is called your sum, or the total. Now, I could also take this and use my algorithm and line up my place values. And if you're going to explain this, you need to make sure that you're explaining that you're lining up the place values. So your ones are being lined up with ones, tens are lined up with tens, and hundreds are lined up with hundreds if you're going to explain this as a strategy. So 6 and 6 makes 12. We already figured that out here with our other strategy. We carry the 10 to the tens place. Now we have 70 plus another 10 would be 80. And 6 more tens would be 40, 140. But now that I have 140, I realize that I can regroup that 100 to the hundreds place, which is what I did here for to add to my 500. So I have 300 plus 200 is my 500. I regroup this 100 here from the 130. And now I've got 642. Another way to look at this is I could take the 376 and add on each place value, one place value at a time. So if I do that, I add 200 to the 300, which would give me 576 since I'm not adding anything onto my ones or my tens. I take 576 and I add on 60 from the 266, and that's going to give me, remember, I'm adding on 60 here to the tens. So that tells me I'm going to have enough tens to regroup and make a new 100. So I'm going to have 636 And if I take my 636 now, I'm going to take and I'm going to add this 6 on here to the 636. And if I add on 6 plus 6 is 12, that means I have now regrouped a new 10 into my tens place to make 642, because 6 plus 6 is 12. So I carry the 10 to the 30 and add it, and now it's 40. So 3 different strategies to kind of take a look at here. Not to say that there aren't more, but of course we want to be efficient. So let's look at our next problem. It says round each number to the nearest 100, then add. Okay, so remember, we're estimating using rounding to the nearest 100. So we're looking at the hundreds place in each one of our numbers. So we have 612. Remember that when we're rounding to the nearest 100, we look at the hundreds place first, and then we think about what's the next 100 going to be on that number line. Remember, 650 is going to tell us whether we're going to round up or round down. So we have 600 and 700 is where 612 is between. 612 is going to be right around here, possibly. And we know that when we have a number that is less than 650, 612 is going to round to 600. So 600 is our nearest 100 for 612. We have 300, and our next 100 is 400. Remember, 350 is in between, and if it's less than 350, we go down. If it's greater than 350, we go up. If it's exactly 350, we still have the rule that we're going to round up. So 303 is very close to 300. It's only 3 away from 300 because we go 301, 302, 303. So definitely 303 is going to round to 300. And our keyword about tells us that we don't want an exact amount. We want an about amount. So when I add these two groups of 600 and 300, I get 900. Writing our number in standard form, that means we take each place value and write its digit in the place value that it is representing or showing. So my 3 is going to be in my ones place. The 9 from the 90 goes in the tens, and the 6 from the 600 is going to go in the hundreds place. Same thing for 542. The 5 is going to go in the hundreds place. The 4 is going to go in the tens because of 40, and the 2 will go in the ones for 2. And finally, be very careful with this one. We have our hundreds place. So we're going to put a digit 1 in the hundreds. But if you notice, there aren't any tens. So we are going to represent those tens with a 0. And we have 2 ones. So when we say this number, we say 102. Remember, these do not have to be in order. So if they happen to have written it like this, our values of our numbers would remain the same or still be the same. It's just that we would have to write them in order based on their values. So don't depend on looking at the first number of each one of these and putting that number together. Remember, you have to look at the values of those numbers to put the digits correctly into their place values. Okay, so now let's take a look at our pictograph. A pictograph is a graph that is shown by using a picture and how many those pictures represent. So this is called a key. So I want you to put the word key down below here so that you know that this is the key. Meaning that if you know what the value of this picture is, then you have the key to understanding the pattern in the pictograph. This is your key. So every letter is going to be counting, every picture of a letter is going to be 8 letters, or representing or showing 8 letters. So they want to know how many letters were mailed on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Remember, when we see "and," we're most of the time when we're going to combine these values. So Monday, remember, multiplication kind of goes well with pictographs, because if we have the same number over and over again, we can use multiplication to represent that. So we have 3 groups of 8 here. So we have 8 plus 8 plus 8. So 8 plus 8 plus 8. So if we were to know our multiples of 8, or we use repeated addition, of course, 8 plus 8 is 16. 16 plus 4 more would be 20, and then 4 more from that would be 24, because I broke my 8 up as 4 and 4. So 8, 16, 24. There were 24 letters on Monday. On Wednesday, we notice we have 2 envelopes here. This tells us that we have 8 and 8. And 2 groups of 8, or 2 times 8, is going to give us 16. Now, you will notice here that we have a group of 8, but then we have a picture of a half an envelope here. So we need to know what half of 8 is. So we could say that we know 8 is for our first picture, but if we take half of 8, that's going to give us 4. And 8 and 4 is 12. Now we need to take the combined amount of these to find our total. So now that we know we have 24 for Monday, we have 12 letters for Tuesday, and we have 16 for Wednesday. I'm going to add my 10s. 20 and 10 is 30, plus 10 more is 40. And I have 4 plus 6, I know, is a quick 10, plus 2 more is 12. So I have 42 letters that were mailed on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And so that's our DMA for today. And we'll come back tomorrow and do DMA for Tuesday, day 2, week 9.